Alright, let's learn ecology with a little help from the Lion King. Words. A population is a group of the same species. A community would be a group of populations like this lovely group right here. And these organisms in an environment would be called an ecosystem. The biosphere would be all the regions of Earth with living things. A habitat would be where an organism lives, and a niche would be all the biotic and abiotic resources in an environment that an organism uses. In ecology, we can look at the size, dispersion, and density of a population. An age structure diagram like this describes the abundance of individuals at each age. Survivorship curves will look like one of these. In type 1, a species will survive to middle age. In type 2, the likelihood of death is at any age. In type 3, a species usually dies at a young age. When describing growth of a population, carrying capacity is the max of individuals of a population that can be sustained. Limiting factors prevent a population from reaching its biotic potential. Growth of a population. This equation will find the reproductive rate of a population. These are other ways of writing the equation. Exponential growth would look like this, with the population size growing. Logistic growth would look like this. The population would reach its carrying capacity. Here's an example of population cycles where there are changes in population size in response to limiting factors. R selected species exhibit the J curve, and K selected species exhibit the S curve. All of these things made exponential growth in humans possible. Community ecology. Interspecific competition is between different species, for instance, lions versus hyenas. The competitive exclusion principle says one species is likely to be more successful when it competes for exactly the same resource as another species. Lions like Simba typically win the fight. Resource partitioning is when the species minimize competition by pursuing slightly different resources. Symbiosis is when two species live in close contact. Mufasa and Rafiki's relationship is an example of mutualism. Both species benefit. These birds on Puma is an example of commensalism, where one species benefits and the other is unharmed. Parasitism is when one species benefits and the other is harmed. Examples of coevolution are camouflage, aposematic coloration, mimicry, and pollination. Young Simba here can be exhibiting camouflage or mimicry. The flow of energy in ecosystems. Only 1% of solar energy is converted into organic matter. A food chain shows who eats whom. A food web is more complete. The trophic levels illustrate energy flow. Primary producers convert sun energy. They are eaten by primary consumers, and they are eaten by secondary consumers, and they are eaten by tertiary consumers, and all the consumers are eaten by the detrivores, the composers. Ecological pyramids show the relationship between the levels. Primary productivity is the amount of organic matter produced through photosynthetic activity per unit of time. The components include gross primary productivity, net primary productivity, and respiratory rate. Here's the equation. The efficiency of energy transfer from one trophic level to the next is 10%. The rest is lost as heat. Remember that energy flows and matter recycles. A dominant species is the most abundant species in an ecosystem. A keystone species has a strong influence on the health of an ecosystem. An invasive species is an introduced species that displaces the native species because it is a better competitor. All of these factors influence the number and size of trophic levels in an ecosystem. All of these factors influence biodiversity. Increases in biodiversity means an increased stability of an ecosystem. Some disturbances that threaten stability are fires, floods, diseases, human actions, volcanoes, and plate tectonics. Biogeochemical cycles are the water cycle, which looks like this. The nitrogen cycle, which looks like this. The carbon cycle, which looks like this. and the phosphorus cycle, which looks a little bit like this. Humans impact ecosystems. Because there's a lot of CO2 in the atmosphere, the heat of UV rays is being trapped in the atmosphere. This is the greenhouse effect. Air pollutants are breaking down the ozone layer and are allowing UV rays to reach Earth. Acid rain is also due to air pollutants. Because humans cut forests, erosion, flooding, and changes in weather occurs. Humans cause a lot of pollution. Biomagnification means that if this beetle has toxins in its body, then when Puma eats it, his body will contain more concentrated toxins. And that's just about it.